So hello everyone, welcome to Pristine's webinar on hedging strategies using futures for the FRM1 examination. So as you might be knowing, hedging strategies is quite an important topic in the FRM examination, and you can easily expect around 4 to 5 questions from it every year. So what we aim to do in this session is give you a thorough overlook of the topic so that come examination day you are not caught dumb by any new questions that might come up. So let's get started. So firstly, first I'd like to check if everyone among the audience can hear me. So if you could just type in your response in the chat as to whether you can hear me or not, that would be great. Okay, yeah, so most of you seem to be able to hear me properly. I think Shekhar is having a problem. So Shekhar, if the problem persists, I think it should go away in some time. If it's persisting, please let me know. Okay, so starting off, Pristine is a leading trainer in finance courses. So it's authorized by the CFA Institute, the GARP, the Premier, which conducts the PRM, and it has a marquee client list. It serves JP Morgan, Bank of America, Ernst & Young, IIM Calcutta. About the instructor, so I'm Hemang. I'm in the content development team for Pristine. So I have been taking sessions on FRM related topics for some time now. Yeah, I hope you have a good time through the webinar, and hope you have good learnings from it. Okay, so let's get started. So firstly, I want to talk about forward and futures contracts. So since we'll be talking about hedging strategies using futures, it's important to know what futures are. So basically, future is an agreement to buy or sell an asset for a certain price at a certain time, and it is traded on an exchange. Whereas a forward is similar to future, but they are traded in the over-the-counter market. So that is the basic difference between the two. So a future is basically an obligation to carry out a particular transaction in the future. Okay, so an example of future would be, say, two traders carry out a future contract in which one trader A contracts with trader B, which says that trader A will buy, say, 10 kgs of wheat from trader B in the future at a fixed rate. So basically this is an obligation rather than an option. So after a certain point of time, as the pre-decided point in time arrives, the trader A will have to buy the 10 kg of wheat from trader B at the prefixed price, no matter what the market price of wheat at that time is. So the profit or loss made by trader A is determined by the pre-decided price of the future contract as well as the market price of wheat at the time when the contract is fulfilled. So if you can see, here we can see the graphs for a future contract. So here we can see the y-axis is the payoff, the s-axis is the spot price of the commodity which we are contracting, and x is the agreed upon price at which the commodity was contracted. So longing a future means that you are going to buy a future. So as long as the spot price of the commodity is less than the pre-agreed upon price, you will be making a loss, because you will be buying a commodity for a higher cost than it actually is in the market. Whereas for the short, that is the seller of the future, for the seller of the future, as long as the exercise price, the value of the commodity is less than the exercise price, he will be making a profit. But after that, he will be making a loss. Okay. So now moving on to the type of traders. So we basically have three types, that is hedgers, speculators, and arbitrageurs. So hedgers are basically people who want to consolidate their position and do away with the risk as as large an extent as possible. So they use the derivatives to hedge risks they face from volatility in asset prices. So the example is very apt here. It is a company is getting a cash inflow in 3 months time in foreign currency. Say a US trader is going to receive a payment in 3 months time in euros. So he'll hedge the risk. So there's a risk involved here, because the exchange rate between the euro and the dollar could fluctuate. So it could be such that the euro weakens in comparison to the dollar, so that the payment the trader is going to receive will actually have much lesser value in terms of the dollars. So to avoid this, the trader can hedge the risk by taking a short position in a currency forward at a particular price. So he can basically take a short position on the euro at a particular price, which he considers to be safe. So yeah, so now given that he is assured of a certain amount of payment on the dollars, his payoff is fixed regardless of what happens to the exchange rate between the euro and the dollar in the future. So the other type of investors are the speculators. They basically try to determine by themselves what the direction the market is going to go in, whether a particular asset is going to increase in value or decrease, and then use futures to benefit from it. So for instance, if a speculator believes that the euro is going to strengthen in comparison to the dollar, so what he will do is he will buy a future contract to buy euros to convert dollars into euros at a specified price which is lower or at least similar to the price that exists at present, so that in the future when the price of euro is higher, he will actually not have to pay the higher price and he will be able to make a profit that way. Next we have arbitrageurs. So these people take two positions in the market to profit from. So this is a more of a risk-free type of profit, because you are buying and selling at the same time. So an example here is like the spot price of gold. Consider that it is $390 and the 1 year forward price is $425. So the 1 year US dollar interest rate is 5% per annum. Now here what happens is, as we can see, the future price of gold is determined by the interest rate. So as you can see, the spot price is $390 and the time involved is 1 year. The interest rate is 5%. So the value of the future becomes the spot price into 1 plus the interest rate. So that is $409.5. So it is known that in 1 year the value of gold will be $409.5. And at the same time, he can see that the 1 year forward price of gold is $425. So what the arbitrager will do is he will buy gold at the current market price, that is $390, and then sell a 1 year forward for gold, which will get him $425. So basically the profit he will attain is $425 minus $409.5. Okay, then we'll look at the mechanics of the future markets. So here we basically have an investor who contacts the broker. The broker then contracts the trader and the clearinghouse member. The trader carries out the exchange, and the clearinghouse member updates the clearinghouse about the status. So what all is considered in the futures contract? So first is the asset. The asset is a commodity, and exchange specifies the asset in complete detail, because there is a scope of ambiguity in the if less information is portrayed. So an effort is made to portray as much information as possible. Okay. Next is the contract size, the amount of asset to be delivered. That is also specified. The delivery arrangement, place of delivery, the delivery month. Then we come to margins. So here in the futures, there is a requirement of the investors to deposit a certain amount of money with the broker. So based on the fluctuation in value of a future from the time of putting in an order till the time of fruition of that order, there will be some variation in the value of futures. So based on that variation, suppose the price of the futures increases, so the position of the investor has increased, so he will basically gain money from that, and as a result he'll have to keep less money in the margin account. Similarly, if his position worsens, he will lose money in the margin. He will have to put in money into the margin account because his position will worsen. Okay, so I'd like to ask again if anyone is having trouble with the voice clarity at this point. So if you guys can reply in the chat, that would be great. Okay, everyone seems to be able to hear me fine, so we'll continue. Okay, so now we'll look at the delivery process of futures. So delivery basically means that the buyer of the future is actually receiving the product that he entered into the contract for. So that means that if you've gone into a contract of wheat futures, so you will actually receive the consignment of wheat. But yeah, this actually rarely happens. So most contracts are closed out before the contract period ends. So by closing out, I mean what happens is the trader places an opposite order to his current position. So for instance, if your current position is you have placed a long order for 10 kilos of wheat, what you will do is you will put a sell or a short condition on the same amount of wheat. So in that case, what will happen is the exchange or the clearing house will remove the mentioned wheat from the transaction, and it will it will net you out. That is, it will either submit money into your account if you are making a profit at that point, or it will take away money from your account if you are making a loss. Another type of settlement is cash settlement that occurs between the traders itself, and it does not happen on the trading floor. So this is actually the only kind of transaction that is allowed outside of the trading floor when we talk about futures. Okay. So again, comparing forwards and futures. So basically, forwards, the main difference is that they are not traded on exchanges, whereas futures are. So as a result, because they are not traded on exchanges, their credit risk is high because there is no prior verification of the credit credibility of the traders. Other thing is the customization is very high because there is not a lot of standardization in the trades. One more important point is that the settlement is only at the end of the contract and on a specific date. Whereas for futures, the settlement can occur over a range of dates. It is not specific to a particular date. Okay, so now we'll come to the main topic, that is hedging using futures. So first of all, as we discussed before, a hedge is a position established to minimize exposure to unwanted risks. So you will take a position such that your payoff is stabilized no matter what happens in the market. So the hedge can be of two types, either a short hedge or a long hedge. So short hedge is a hedge in which investors take a short position in a contract. So and long hedge is one in which investors take a long position in the contract. Usually if an investor has a long position in a particular commodity and he is not sure about its outcome in the coming future, he is likely to take a short hedge. Whereas if a trader has a incumbent short position, he is likely to take a long hedge. So here we can see a very apt example. So a hen producer is going to sell hens in 3 months. His cost per hen is $50 and he knows he has to sell it above $50 to make a profit. So currently the price is $51. He knows that there is going to be a lot of supply of hens in the coming months and the price is likely to go down. So what should he do to profit from this? So what he'll do is, he will short the hen futures contract with a price of $50 or lower. Then just before the settlement date, as the spot price of hen is going to decrease because the supply is higher, so he will take a long contract which will be at $45. So basically, overall he is making a profit of $5 on the contract. So now we can look at the situations where hedging takes place. So looking at hedging and shareholders, so shareholders can hedge the risk themselves, but companies do it more often because of the higher volume of transactions, their hedging costs are lower. That is the primary reason for that. Then again, another point is that hedging can give you a competitive advantage. So if the price of, in the previous example, if the price of hen food reduces as the suppliers are pressed to reduce prices, so the hen producer HP's profit would rise as he had already stabilized his payoff. Whereas if he hadn't done so, his profits would have reduced along with the market prices. So hedging can make you independent of the market prices in a way. Okay, now we'll take a look at basis risk. So basis risk is basically defined as the spot price of the asset that you are trying to hedge and the futures price of the contract which you are using to hedge. So the type of risks involved here are if there's an interruption in the convergence of future and spot prices. So what should ideally happen is that you would be hedging a commodity with the same commodity. That is, you will be going long on a say 5 kilo rice contract, and you will be hedging it with a 5 kilo by shorting a 5 kilo rice contract. So in that case, as the time approaches the completion of contract, the basis reduces to 0. So that is not possible if the future and the spot assets are not the same. So that interruption causes basis risk. Another case is when the cost of carry changes. That is the cost of carrying a commodity at your warehouse or whatever storage facility you have. So this again based on the price of the commodity and the interest rates that are prevailing, the cost of carry changes. So this again brings about a fluctuation in the basis. Another point is the imperfect matching between cash asset and hedge asset. So again, because they are not the same, there is always a mismatch. So it can be a duration mismatch. That is, you are trying to hedge, say, a mortgage bond of 5 years with a 10-year treasury bond. So that would be a duration mismatch because the mortgage bond would pay off quicker than the treasury bond. The next would be the liquidity mismatch. That is again a low if you are taking a treasury bond which has a very high liquidity, and you are hedging a treasury bond using a treasury bond, and you are trying to hedge say a low credit bond which will have very low liquidity. Again, that would be a liquidity mismatch. Then we have the credit risk mismatch, which means that you are trying to hedge say either a high credit instrument with a low credit instrument or vice versa. So these are all the components of basis risk. You can expect at least 2 questions on this topic based on these factors of basis risk, because this is traditionally given a lot of importance in FRL. Okay, so now coming on to hedge ratio. So what happens here is basically we'll talk about what is the optimal hedge ratio of the cash asset and the hedge asset. So based on the correlation between the spot and future prices, as well as the standard deviation of the spot prices and the standard deviation of future prices, we can determine that. So the formula is the hedge ratio, that is H star here, is equal to the rho, that is correlation between the spot and future prices, into the standard deviation of the spot prices divided by the standard deviation of future prices. Okay, so before we get to the question, I'll ask again if people are able to hear me clearly. If you can reply on the chat. Okay, so Anant has a question. It seems so he's asking what is a long and a short position. So Anant, a long position is basically when you are trying to buy a commodity or a bond using a futures contract. So say if I buy a futures contract for any commodities like say uh, iron ore stocks, which will for an year. So I'll be longing the iron ore, and if I wish to sell that asset in a future contract, that is the shorting. So if I want to sell the same asset in 1 year, that is I'll have a short position. Okay. So coming to the question. So yeah. So here we have the standard deviation of the euro dollar, that is the euro currency to the dollar currency exchange futures contract is 0.8, and the standard deviation of the current exchange rate, that is the spot, is 0.45. The covariance between the two is 0.254. So what would be the optimal hedge ratio? So we'll be using the formula we discussed in the previous slide just now. So I'll give you, this is the formula that we'll be using. So you can look at it for a minute. Okay, so now let's see if you could try out this question and let me know your response in the chat, that will be great. So I'll give you some about a minute to try this out, and if you can reply in the chat, that will be great. Okay, so Sandeep seems to have gotten the right answer. It's actually A. So let's look at how we came to that. Here the common source of error is usually that people fail to distinguish between covariance and correlation. So the value provided in the question is actually covariance and not correlation. So we cannot use the formula that is shown here directly. So we will first need to find out the correlation based on the covariance. So here we can see, just give me a minute. So as we can see here, the correlation is given by the covariance divided by sigma of spot prices into sigma of future prices. So this will actually, this formula will help us get the value of correlation, which we can then plug into the equation shown here, and this will get you the right answer. Okay, so if anyone had any doubts with this question, please feel free to let me know on the chat. Okay, so yeah, so it seems no one has a problem so far, so we'll move on. So coming to the next topic, that is determining the optimal number of contracts. So here what we'll do is, given a particular value of the portfolio or your existing position. So portfolio will basically be say the 10 stocks that you are managing. You have a portfolio of 10 stocks and you want to hedge the position. That is, you want to make them independent of the market, so that if the market takes a downturn in the future, you are secure. So basically, we'll try to the number of contracts of the future that you need to buy in order to hedge your position is given by this formula. You can see here. So the number of contracts is equal to the beta value of the spot price and the future price into the value of the portfolio and divided by the value of the futures. That is value of one future contract. So this will basically tell you how many future contracts you need to buy to hedge your position. So the value of beta is the same as the hedge ratio that we were talking about before. So beta is essentially this. That is the correlation between the spot and future prices into the standard deviation of the spot prices divided by the standard deviation of future prices. Okay. So now moving on, we'll have a question on this. Yeah, and the negative sign of N star would indicate that you're shorting the contract, and a positive sign will indicate that you are longing a contract. So negative sign means you are selling and positive sign means you are buying. Okay, so this is the second question. So I'll again give you a minute to look at it. So here we basically have a fund of $50 million. So the SP 500 index, so this is basically an index which we use to determine the value, which we use to read the value of the future and the contract multiplier. Contract multiplier means that how many contracts of future can you transact in one go. So you undergo one transaction, that will mean you are transacting 250 contracts of the futures, and it's currently trading at $800. So you have to hedge 3/4 of this market exposure. That is, your market exposure is $50 million, so you have to hedge 3/4 of that value. The correlation between the fund and futures is 0.8, and the standard deviation of the spot and the futures is 0.65 and 0.57 respectively. So what should be your course of action? So I'll again give you around 30-40 seconds to look at it and try to answer it in the chat, and then we'll take it from there. Yeah, okay, so I think we can look at the answer now. I think, yeah, Divyank has got the right answer. The answer is option A. So now we look at how we came to that. So here again we'll be using the formula I discussed in the previous slide. So the value of the number of contracts is given by this formula. Okay, so here we have, just a minute, I seem to be having some problems. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what we have is what we want to find out is n star. So that will be given by the value of beta. Beta we'll calculate by using the formula discussed previously, that is the correlation between the spot and future, that is 0.8, into the standard deviation of the spot prices, that is 0.65, divided by standard deviation of future prices, that is 0.57. So this will give us the beta, and into the value of the portfolio that we want to hedge, that is 50 million, and we want to hedge 3/4 of this, so we take 0.75 divided by the value of the futures contract, that is one futures contract. So here we know that the price of the futures contract is $800 and the multiplier is 250. So it's important to multiply with the multiplier because that is the minimum transaction that you can undertake. So even if you want to uh, short the least amount of contracts, you will have to short at least 250 contracts. So this will give us the answer. So that is around 171 contracts that we need to short. Okay. Okay. Then moving on. So the next topic is adjusting the value of the portfolio beta. So here what we try to do is, how do you adjust the amount of beta, that is the change in the spot prices compared to the future prices. How do you change that by buying or selling futures contracts? So again, that we have the formula here, that is number of contracts. Number of contracts is given by the beta new, the new beta that you want minus the old beta that you had, into the portfolio value that you own, divided by the underlying asset, that is the value of one future contract that you wish to hedge with. Okay. So again, the negative sign indicates shorting of contracts. All right. So this is basically done, say for instance, if a company wants to reduce its exposure, that is reduce its beta value or increase its beta value to basically reduce the amount invested in hedging. So these are the two cases where this adjustment of the portfolio beta is done. Okay, so we'll next we'll have a question on this. So let's look at it. So here we have the current value of the S&P index is 1589, and the contract multiplier is 250. The long equity portfolio, that is the portfolio you have with you right now, is valued at $200 million, and it has an existing, that is the current beta of 0.9. You want to reduce it to 0.75, that is the beta new is 0.75. So what should be the course of action in this case? So again, we'll be using the formula mentioned in the previous slide. So again, I'll give you 30-40 seconds to work this and give me the answer in the chat. Okay. So it seems no one was able to get this one right. Okay. So the answer here is C, that is sell 75 contracts. So let us look at how to get that. Okay, so we'll be using this formula again. The number of contracts is beta new minus beta old into portfolio value divided by underlying asset value. So the beta new that we want is this. That is 0.75. So beta new is 0.75. Beta old, that was the current beta, is 0.9. The portfolio value is $200 million. And the underlying asset value, that is value of the futures, would be the value of one future contract into the contract multiplier, that is 1589 into 250. So if you plug on these values in the formula, so we should get the answer C. Okay. Next we'll look at tailing the hedge. So tailing the hedge is used to basically update the hedge ratio that you have with the passage of time. So what happens usually is that as time goes by, the price of the futures and the spot fluctuates a lot. So suppose if the value of the futures with which you are wanting to hedge increases a lot, so then you will not want, you will basically require less future contracts to hedge your position. Similarly, if the value of the futures decreases or the spot prices increases, then you would want more future contracts to hedge your position. So this basically determines how many contracts you should buy or sell to maintain the optimal hedge ratio. So here again we use this formula for number of contracts. Number of contracts is equal to beta of portfolio, that is beta of spot price relative to future price, into value of the portfolio, that is the initial value, divided by the initial value of the futures contract, and into the current value of the spot divided by the current value of the futures. So this will basically update the hedge ratio to give you the optimal hedge ratio and correspondingly the optimal number of contracts that you need to have to hedge your position. Okay, it seems Sandeep has a question regarding the beta value. So the beta value is tells you basically for say a 1 unit change in the future price, what is the amount of change in the spot price. So a beta value of 1 means that the future price and spot price are moving exactly in the same fashion, and ideally you would want a beta value of less than 1, because that would mean that less than 1 or even a negative beta value, because that would mean that your hedging instrument is moving either very slowly with the future with the cash asset that you want to hedge, or it is moving in the opposite direction, which is ideal for you, because it would help you in cases of an adverse situation in the market. Say your cash asset is losing its value, so you would see that the value of the future is increasing rather than decrease with the cash asset. Okay, so next we will look at a question on this topic. So here basically Dave is a portfolio manager. So the value of the portfolio is $15 million. The beta is 1.6. The futures are trading at 1250. The multiplier is 250. So he wants to, now he sees that after some time the spot price is 1195 and the future price has increased to 1270. So what should happen here is, since the price of the futures has increased, he would require a lesser number of contracts to maintain his hedge position. So what he would do is sell some contracts. Now what we need to determine is how many contracts should be sold for the futures. So we will be using the formula I discussed in the last slide. So that is this formula. You can take a look at this. And I'll give you 30-40 seconds in which to try to solve the question and give me the answer. Okay, so I think that was sufficient time. Yeah, so Ritesh seems to have got the right answer, and that is B, that is to sell 72 contracts. So let's look at how we got there. So we'll be using this formula again, as I mentioned. That is, the number of contracts is equal to the beta portfolio into original portfolio value divided by original futures value into the current spot value divided by the current futures value. So the beta portfolio is given as 1.6. The value of the portfolio is given as 15 million. The value of the forwards was initially 1250. The value of the spot right now is 1195. And the value of the future at the present instance is I think 1290, 1270. 1270. So again, we can plug these values in and we'll get the answers. Okay. So Muhammad Akil has a doubt. He wants to know how do these questions relate to the questions asked in the actual exam in terms of toughness. So I think this is fairly representative of the kind of questions you will face in the actual exam. In fact, if you look at the previous year's questions for FRM examinations for hedging strategies using futures, it's usually of a very similar kind. So it's basically this particular topic is mostly formula based. So the formulas that I've discussed in this PPT are pretty exhaustive. So and if you have a decent grasp on the background, I think you shouldn't have much of a problem uh, with the question in the actual exam. And yeah, definitely this I think is pretty representative of the questions that are actually asked. If you are interested, by the way, we will will shortly be providing you with further questions on this topic, as well as I'll just be sharing a slide with you where I'll let you know the links for the other blogs and quizzes that we have on hedging, as well as some other topics like linear regression analysis, and shortly we'll be coming up with more content regarding the FRM preparation. Okay, so I guess we have covered the whole topic. So we'll just look at the few basic formulas that you need to remember. So these together basically constitute all that you need to remember from this topic, along with a basic understanding of the mechanism of hedging to do well in FRM. So in basis is the spot price of an asset minus futures price of the contract. The type of traders are hedgers who basically want to consolidate their position and minimize losses. Speculators want to ideally predict the trend the market is going to take and then try to profit from it. Arbitrageurs look for positions where a similar asset or a similarly what an entity that should be valued similarly at two different places is actually not valued correctly, so they can exploit the difference in the valuation. Then the optimal hedge ratio that we use this to calculate what is the ratio between the hedge assets and the cash assets that you need to have. Then the optimal number of contracts, again based on the optimal hedge ratio, you can calculate the optimal number of contracts that you will require. Yeah, another formula to get that is mentioned below, that is the hedge ratio into the value of the portfolio, that is the number of assets in the portfolio divided by the value of the futures. Okay, then the adjustment of the beta, again this is done by companies to basically increase their exposure or decrease their exposure to the market. So when you want to increase your exposure, you would want a higher beta than before, and if you want to decrease your exposure, you will have a lower beta than before. So that is how you get the optimal number of contracts. Okay, so I think we are done with the basic topic. So we have a lot of content coming up to help you in your preparation for FRM and even CFA exams. So we had a blog published very recently, blogs published on understanding the income statement and linear regression analysis, and you can see their links here. Also, we have a quiz on linear regression analysis if people are interested in them. Additionally, we will also be having classroom training in New York starting from 3rd May. This will be a 4-day review course with expert guidance starting from 3rd May, and I would really recommend it if any of you guys are in New York or are able to travel to New York at that time, because this would really help consolidate your preparation for the FRM examinations. Other than this, we also have a free seminar in New York on 23rd and 26th April. This would be more of an overview on how to basically go about the last phase of your preparation. So what should be your study plan, which topics you should give more importance to, uh, and which type of questions are more likely to come up. So this will be a free seminar, so I would really recommend you to attend it if possible. Other than that, we also have our international website, which our international website where you can check for regular updates. We'll also be having quite a lot of content on the site coming up. So I would request you to uh, continue to check this at regular intervals. And in case of any queries, please contact either me, that is himang@univ.com, or zainab@edupristine.com. We'd be more than willing to take your queries. So I am putting the link for the international website on the chat if you guys are interested. I think we'll be offering a lot of free stuff, free preparation material on the site, so I would suggest you to keep checking this and even suggest it to your friends. I think that would really help your preparation. Okay, so I think we have covered everything that was intended. So does anyone have any last questions they would want addressed? You can ask that in the chat. Okay, it seems that we are good for now. So yeah, so thanks for attending this webinar. I hope it was helpful to you in terms of helping your preparation for FRM. And please, we'll keep you posted for future webinars that will be coming up next week. And I would suggest you to keep checking our international website. It will offer a lot of helpful material to you to help you in the preparation. Yeah. So I guess that's it then. Thank you guys. I'll take off now.